Hi guys! Today, as you can see from the title, I'm going to be talking to you about being a vegetarian. You didn't know this, but I am one, as you may have guessed. And I'm just going to tell you a bit about why I'm a vegetarian, how being a vegetarian can benefit you, and how being a vegetarian benefits the environment. I'm not going to preach to you and be like, eating meat is blah 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 and all that. I'm just here to give you some good reasons if you're interested in what it's like to be a vegetarian, and if you're thinking of becoming one, then hopefully I will encourage you to do that. The first thing I'm going to start with is a bit about me and why I'm a vegetarian. So I basically grew up in a vegetarian home. My parents didn't ever cook meat really, very rarely cooked fish, so when I was younger I did have a bit of fish very occasionally, and they didn't force it on me when I was younger. If I felt like eating a bit of meat at maybe a friend's house or at my grandparents', they would let me, but that was also a very rare occasion. So I've never eaten a lot of meat, and as I became older I began to realise that actually being a vegetarian really sits well with me. I've always been happy eating the food I eat. So as I became older I became stricter and stricter vegetarian, and I've learnt more and more about the benefits of being a vegetarian, which has really encouraged me to keep the diet. I mean, I can't even remember, to be honest, what meat tastes like, so it's not hard for me at the moment. And people may see this as a bit, they may see it as a bit cheeky, me trying to encourage you to eat less meat, because you're probably thinking, well, it's easy for me because I don't even know what meat tastes like. And that's true, I don't know what I'm missing out on, so it is very easy for me. But I've had friends, quite a few friends, who've become vegetarians and they haven't looked back, and I just believe if you have the willpower, you can do it. Ultimately it's only food, and there's still plenty of food to eat in the world. But anyway, enough ramble on about that. Now I'm going to go on to how being a vegetarian benefits you as an individual. I'm going to start off with that myth that you don't get enough protein, and this is not true. I'm living proof of that. I've been a vegetarian practically my whole life, and I'm perfectly healthy. I'm not deficient in anything. You can get all the protein you need from nuts and seeds and plenty of vegetarian food. To me, that's not a good argument for why you need to eat meat. And also, vegetarianism is a healthier diet. Among vegetarians there are less incidences of coronary artery disease, hypertension, obesity, and some forms of cancer. So by eating less meat you'll be at less risk of developing those diseases and illnesses. Now also, it's cheaper. Being a vegetarian is cheaper. So if you're having money problems, you can always cut back on the meat, and there'll be many more benefits, as well as having a bit more money in your pocket. Finally, obviously it's a lower fat diet, and you actually end up often with a more proportional all-round diet because you might try out some more variety of meals. But this is just a bit of research that I've done on medical websites, so obviously I'm not a licensed health professional, but that's the things that I've learned from doing a bit of research on the web. So now I'm going to go on to something that's really why I believe strongly in being a vegetarian, and it shows how there's plenty of very good reasons to become a vegetarian or just eat less meat. This is going to be how the meat industry really impacts on the environment, which I personally feel people aren't massively aware of, and I'm going to bring some facts to you. Okay, so first of all, the majority of meat is produced by industrial agriculture, which is actually the most damaging type of agriculture for the environment. Industrial agriculture contributes massively to climate change, large energy use, deforestation, decline of biodiversity, and many other things such as soil erosion. The Food and Agriculture Organization actually reported that 18% of global house gas emissions are produced by the livestock and poultry industry. Not only this, but 0.9% of US energy is used in raising livestock and poultry. Obviously, a huge amount of pollution comes from transporting the meat around the world, raising them, the majority in factories, which is another thing that I personally don't like ethically. I just don't like the thought of keeping animals in such terrible conditions in the mass-produced meat industry. More than half the world's crops are used for feeding animals. Now, if you think how much energy this loses, every time something is eaten it loses energy, so the animal or the cattle eat the grain, there's less energy, and then we eat the meat, when instead more energy could go straight from the grain to humans. So more of the world could be fed, there could be less poverty, there'd be less forests being cut down for areas for cattle to graze on. The list goes on. Also, the demand for meat is actually increasing in places such as China, where they're following a more Western diet, and we simply do not have the resources to sustain this demand. Ultimately, the whole industry as it is unsustainable. Ultimately, the whole industry as it is unsustainable. There is also, in areas such as fishing, massive problems of overfishing. It has been estimated that there'll be no more fish in the ocean by 2050. Entire ecosystems are being destroyed. Finally, I just want to end with a quote from the Food and Agricultural Organization. I think I'm allowed to read this out. I don't know if it classed as copyright. Hopefully not. But it says the livestock sector emerges as one of the top 2 or 3 most significant contributors to the most serious environmental problems at every scale, from local to global. So obviously I understand everyone becoming vegetarian isn't going to solve everything. It's just a positive step to take, I think, in your life, both for personal reasons and environmental reasons. You don't necessarily have to become a complete vegetarian. You could even just cut back a few days a week on the amount of meat you eat. So hopefully this has been an interesting video. If you want to find out more information, just type in to Google things such as the environmental benefits of vegetarianism, health benefits of vegetarianism, and there's plenty more information on this, but I didn't want to bore you to death. So hopefully this hasn't been too boring and interesting, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye!